The following audiobook is a Crippled Devils production, directed by Tom Berry and read to you by James Sirius Grimm. The Legend of Sparda. Book 2, The Invasion. Chapter 1, Activation. The world was born from darkness, unending darkness, a crucible of chaos. But even to that primordial existence there came a ray of light. The universe was eventually split into two. The darkness became the realm of demons, and the light became the domain of mortals. These two worlds existed for what seemed like an eternity. Then one day, the lord of the demon world, Mundus, decided that since the two worlds were once one, they shall be so again. From that era forward, the dark fought to control the light, and the light struggled to defy the dark. But the nature of man is weak and fragile. There was no way they could hope to oppose the demonic powers of those from the world of shadows. Light was overwhelmed by the impenetrable darkness, and humanity prepared to meet its end. And then he appeared. This is their story. This is his story. An era of fear. There was once a time when the light was able to suppress the dark, however. It could not hope to fight the unseen for long. Those humans who were weak in mind and filled with hate were manipulated by those formless beings of the underworld. Late at night, during the darkest hours, those evil spirits worked and flowed in and out of the homes of unsuspecting humans, subduing them to their own twisted machinations. And in the darkness, while the children lay asleep and the night lay still, those humans began constructing the malevolent fortress. Timon grew, a structure then seen as a marvel. The fortress, more than 5 times bigger than any structure ever seen by man, towered over not only the small town, but some thought its apex looked over the entire world. Thick solid rock and marble created its amazing architecture. Lining its entire surface were a series of slender archways, which, at a distance, looked like the faces of tortured souls entrapped in a malevolent prison. Bright orange lights encased in the mouths of gargoyle statues on its offshoots made the edifice itself come alive. And near its highest point was a winding pathway that led to a circular platform surrounded by devilish black statues. It took almost 2 decades to build. 2 decades of deception and manipulation as the humans built the very tower that would become the instrument of their doom. After its completion, the skies grew dark and more humans became possessed and drawn to it. The base of the Temeni grew, pulsed with dark power, as hundreds of men and women, clad in dark robes with hoods covering their faces, began to crawl up the walls of the massive tower with their bare hands, pulling their body weight thousands of feet to the apex of the tower. Their hands bled, creating streaks of dark paint along the rough stone of the tower. Their will, coupled with their evil desires, kept them going. Humans, consumed by the need for darkness, wreaked havoc throughout the adjacent town, where the Temeni grew rose high into the night. The markets where fresh fish were hung and carpets were knitted every day were set ablaze. Weaker demon spirits, those able to break through the boundaries of the two worlds, consumed and took over the minds and bodies of humans, further adding to the ever-growing chaos. For miles, flames danced wildly on the ground, crawling up the sides of small huts, consuming those humans unable to escape its torment. Cries of women being raped and watching their children be burned alive, tortured, and killed meshed together with the cries of men unwilling to follow the darkness being put up on scaffolds and hung. Deep within the basement of the tower, possessed humans now mutilated and scarred with demonic black energy flowing across their body like a living disease, dragging innocents into the fortress. Humans, both possessed by evil spirits and those wishing for their dark hopes to come true, danced madly, traipsing through the blood and guts of both men and women. Some used the bones pulled from dead humans to beat along the walls like drumsticks in an almost chanting manner. However, through all this chaos and madness, an even more menacing act was being conducted near the apex of the tower. A man stood in the center of an incredibly large lair, lined with dark winged statues, in the middle of which was a circular platform filled with symmetrically jagged lines that pulsed with bright light. His dark robe hung past his feet and was gently being tugged upon by a woman whose eyes only read terror. 10 other cloaked individuals stood inside the lair, 2 of which were holding down a screaming girl who violently tried to break away from their grasp. The woman lay at the feet of the cloaked man as the light gleamed at the tip of the long dagger in his right hand.
Please, no, don't do this! I loved you! How could you do this to our family? To our daughter?
The woman's words seemed to at least strike a minor chord in the man, as his dark eyes looked out from his black hood and peered into the eyes of the girl, his daughter. She looked back into his eyes and began to tremble.
Father, no!
The man, the architect of the Temenni group, did not say a word and looked down upon the woman, his beloved wife. His expression was soulless. All signs of human emotions seemed to have left his body, and all that was left was a cold, dark shell of a manipulated being. Echoes of the violent acts occurring outside the gigantic doors of the lair could be heard from within. The architect then began to speak to the woman.
I need you.
At first, the woman thought those words to be benign, but quickly realized the cynical overtones in her husband's voice.
You are pure, untouched by the malevolence of this wasteland. This tower cannot be completed without you.
Suddenly, he raised the dagger above his head with both hands and stood, poised to make a fatal blow. The woman let out a horrible scream just before the dagger planted itself deep into her abdomen. The man fell to one knee, driving the dagger even deeper into the belly of the woman, as his eyes began to glow a sinister red. Seeing her mother stabbed right in front of her eyes, the girl fought to escape from the grasp of her captors. Her eyes flowing with tears, she screamed at her father.
Why? Why?
Ignoring his daughter's screams, the man slowly pulled the now blood-soaked dagger out of his wife and raised it over a circular opening in the middle of the platform. As the life began to slowly leave the woman, she looked over at her daughter and tried to say something.
Run. Run away.
But her final words were lost as the daughter continued to cry. Her captors released her, and her body fell to the ground, exhausted from the tears and traumatized by the events of the day. She laid curled in a ball and slowly lifted her head to stare into the eyes of her dead mother, murdered at the hands of her own father, all for her blood, the final key in the Temenni Gru's activation. Her father let the blood run off the dagger and into the circular crevice. The blood slowly combined with the demonic fluid in the crevice, and the entire platform began to glow a bright red. Suddenly, thunderous booms filled the tower, and the very structure began to shake. Onlookers from the outside stopped in their tracks and gazed upon the fortress as it began to twist and rise upwards, small pieces of its plated walls falling to the ground. Inside the lair of judgment, the large platform started to shake and rise upwards. Some of the cloaked figures struggled to maintain their balance, while the architect stood steadfast and peered upward at the ceiling, which was now opening, revealing the rest of the inner workings of the high-reaching tower. As the platform reached the apex of the tower, it came to a sudden halt. The rain beat upon the platform, creating a steady rhythm that sent chills down the spines of observers. 7 giant bells surrounding the platform slipped from their holders by large chains. Decorated in skeletons pulled from the living victims and stone demon wings, the bells fell into their positions. Deep grinding noises echoed through the sky as the chains tightened and pulled the bells upward. The man, the architect of the Temen Group, raised his head, his hood falling to his back as he looked up into the sky. Dark, booming clouds began to swirl high in the sky, the center point directly above the platform. A red aura emerged and surrounded the tower as those formless demons began to come into the light and swirl around the apex. Through her sobs, the girl heard her father's deep voice.
He plucks the threads that make us dance, finger and toe. We surrender, in joy, to the lowest of the foul and rank. We submerge through darkness, rancid filth, and claw through living earth. Hour by hour, we move downward, ever closer to hell, in a slow, steady gait. Now, let the world resonate. Sloth.
The bell to his far left began slowly swinging.
Gluttony.
The bell to his far right swung.
Greed.
The bells began to swing, one by one, with each deadly sin, switching back and forth, left and right, making their way toward the middle.
Envy.
The architect began to speak louder, almost screaming.
Lust, wrath, and pride.
The bells began to swing in full force, pulsing with deep resonance. Through the ever-growing intensity of the swirling clouds, a faint ring was heard by all. The architect gazed at the bells with an evil grin.
The bell of chaos that tolls human desires. The once great world, separated for over a millennia, shall be whole again.
The clouds swirl with ferocious intensity. Red lightning cracks through the sky and scampers down the walls of the Temen Group. Wind whips through the sky. The architect's robe dances around his body as he finishes his incantation.
Destruction! Carnage and despair! Let your instincts drive you.
With a deafening clap of thunder and blinding flash of red lightning, a beam of red energy flies from center of the swirling clouds to the tower.
Entrap this world in fear. As its very name, Temen strikes terror into the heart of mankind.
And I shall become more than just a man. The Demon King shall grant me the demonic power I have longed for. And the demons, once broken and torn away from this world, shall return again and encompass the universe in utter darkness.
His words are bled out through his insane laughter, laughter of someone who's completed their life's work. The beam expanded in the sky, opening the portal. An orange circle of light peeked through the dark sky, like a window looking into the world of demons. The door to the demons' world was opening. The demon world shook violently, as if colliding with the human world. Sparda and the other generals tried to hold their footing as they stood inside Mundus's pristine white hall.
I see the humans have activated it. Whatever this it is, it's destroying. It's not destroying anything. It's reuniting the worlds.
Sparda's almost panicky question is cut off by Mundus. In one of the farthest corners of the underworld, the red beam of energy coming from the Temen burst through the demonic stone ground. The red energy mixed with the white light of the demon world, giving off an orange glow visible throughout its vast lands. A thick gust of wind swirled and filled the underworld, scattering pieces of rock and debris everywhere. Every demon stopped in their tracks and pondered about the new, ambivalent ambience overtaking them. Over time, the trembling died down to mere rumbles and slowly faded away. The door to the demon world lay open, and a hollow whistle now flowed rhythmically from the portal throughout the demon world.
Is it over, Master?
Griffin pondered.
Yes. The portal has been opened. What do we do now?
Asked Cerberus. Mundus paused for a second, then peered at Sparda. Sparda did not look at Mundus, but instead fixed his gaze at the direction of the steady trembling. He did not seem very pleased with what had just transpired. However, he kept his feelings to himself. Mundus then looked over the rest of his generals and smiled as his 3 eyes glowed with a red aura.
Now we unleash hell.
The thunderous booming had stopped, and the heavy rain came to a slow drizzle in the human world. Atop the Temen Nigru, the architect held up his hands as if awaiting a gift of some kind to fall into them. Everything lay still, and a chilling calm flowed over the surface of the tower. The only sound was the hollow wind swirling around the gaping portal. The architect stood very still and smiled, but the other cloaked figures around him looked at each other in puzzlement and confusion. Even those conducting the violent acts below had ceased in their maliciousness to bear witness to the dark clouds that now surrounded the tower and crawled all the way atop to its apex. The calm remained for what seemed like an eternity. However, suddenly, the portal to the demon world began to pulse again, and white light continuously ran across its blackness. The eyes of the architect glowed a bright red, as a hideous shriek belted from within the portal, and out came an onslaught of devilish-looking birds, soaked in blood with glowing green eyes. These devilish blood goyles descended upon the humans at the top of the Temen group, and below without mercy. The first blow came upon a man fleeing, trying to save his wife. He was literally snatched up into the air and ripped to shreds by a number of these creatures. Hundreds more took up humans and carried them back into the demon realm to unleash unspeakable torture, their blood sacrificed to the clifford. The surrounding humans and some of the cloaked figures began to scatter in fear, but the architect remained as chaos enveloped the tower. His daughter trembled on the ground in so much fear that she was unable to scream.
Yes. Bring your wrath down upon this world.
Suddenly, his daughter was attacked by a goyle and carried off the Temen Nigru into the night. Her faint screams could be heard as she fell out of sight. The portal shook violently as multitudes of blood goyles broke through, and behind them suddenly came the 7 hells. This time different in their form. They no longer had their menacing demonic presence seen in hell, but instead a more tangible and material facade constructed of sand. The portal became wider, and suddenly demons began to appear from the very atmosphere. Hells materialized from thin air, wielding scythes and sharp blades, piercing the bodies of weak humans. And atop all this madness stood the architect, now covered in the blood of his dead wife.
At last, chaos.
Chapter 2: Rising Darkness. The architect stood ready as multitudes of various demons came rushing through the portal. Fierce gushing winds crashed all around the Temen Nigru, hurling humans off its edges to their doom. The 10 other cloaked men, the inner circle, latched on to the surrounding black bells on the surface of the tower and cried to the architect.
Master Dormin, what's happening? You didn't say it would be like this. The spirits, they weren't supposed to attack us.
The architect kept a fixed gaze on the ever-growing portal, and the words spewed out of his mouth as if his mind was absent from his body.
He will come. He will do as he sees fit with us. He will grant me power. He will expel me from this flesh-ridden prison to become something more. Something I can.
His language became choppy and near incoherent as he continued.
I can feel his presence. He draws near. Absolute power. Drowning in chaos. Absolute power. Absolute chaos. Absolute darkness.
The lightning became more intense and began to strike the tower itself, cracking several parts of its structure. 5 members of the inner circle fled, leaving their psychotic master behind. Suddenly, a terrifying screech boomed from the portal opening, and the outflowing demons ceased. Silence flowed around the tower as the architect stood in wait. Then, without warning, a bright blue flash of smoke appeared in front of the portal, and out came an incredible demon which resembled a gigantic blue horse. Light blue fire poured out of its eyes and mouth. Even its mane and tail were made of blue flames. A large spiked chariot was pulled behind him, on top of which was a dark rider with clawed hands, a flowing tattered cape, and a pair of blue eyes who whipped the horse, driving it forward. The architect's eyes widened as the horse and rider came closer. Suddenly, the dark rider raised his clawed fist, and the entire area around him and the Temen-ni-gru turned a dull blue-white as everyone else but he and the horse began to unwillingly move in slow motion. He then unleashed a series of red orbs on and around the tower. As the 5 remaining cloaked figures touched them, long grey arrows mysteriously appeared all around them, piercing their limbs and faces. Only the architect now remained at the top of the tower. The dark rider then leaped from atop the chariot toward the architect and disappeared. The architect, now zombie-like in his movements, convulsed as the dark rider flowed in and out of his body, as if trying to rip his very soul from his chest. The dark rider entered the architect's body one last time, but did not come back out. The architect's body began to convulse again, and he let out a scream as black demonic energy spewed from his eyes and mouth. As the energy ceased, the architect said one last thing, ever so faintly.
Anna.
As the scream stopped, the remaining inner circle slowly approached the architect, whose nostrils and mouth sizzled with black smoke. His face was now slightly deformed and mutilated, as an eerie demonic energy seemed to pulsate beneath his skin. One of the circle members then asked,
Master Dorman, are you all right?
The architect did not respond, but instead mounted the gigantic horse. His hands then became black and clawed, and he dug them deep into the neck of the horse to maintain his balance.
Master?
The architect's voice came out raspy and rhythmic, as if multiple voices were speaking at once.
Meet me in the lower levels of the tower. We must cleanse this world before his coming.
The architect and the horse then disappeared in a cloud of blue smoke, leaving the befuddled inner circle behind. The town stood still, and the demons began flowing through the portal again. The fall of mortals had begun. 2 long years would pass. Shortly after the opening of the portal, various demons were appointed to different sections within the Temen-ni-gru's infrastructure. A high member of the Cerberus clan was chosen to guard the front entrance of the fortress and attack those who approached without prior notice. The twin headless scimitar-wielding demons, Agni and Rudra, were appointed to one of the higher levels of the tower, guarding a massive steel door. Beowulf was appointed to the underground prison beneath the tower, which became a terrifying torture chamber. Nevan was appointed to the caves under the flowing waterfall, where she would take human captives and seduce them before mutilating them with her ravenous bats. Phantom was appointed head of the arachnid nest and moved throughout the tower as he pleased. An enormous demon, resembling a whale, floated cyclically around the fortress and occasionally fed on the town itself, attacking the traveling seamen and their ships numerous times. Over time, most of the humans who chose not to fight the demons or join them fled to neighboring towns to hide underground. Those unable to flee tried to remain in their homes for as long as possible, until a figure that would come to be known by the humans as the Reaper took them. However, there were those who chose to fight the demons. They would come to be known as the Resistance. They stood up to the demons, attempting to fight fire with fire. There were many battles where the Resistance mobilized their forces to attack the Temen-ni-Gru. Several thousand humans went in, sword and shield in hand, as some stood back, manning the catapults with flaming boulders. Needless to say, the Resistance made little progress in reaching the upper levels of the tower. Thus, over time, the Resistance tried less and less to penetrate the tower, but instead hold their ground and prevent further decay of the human realm. A suicidal strategy indeed, but it did seem to work well enough to catch the attention of the Demon King Mundus. Sitting on his throne, he watched as his minions were consistently put down by the human Resistance, and the battlefield came to a standstill. Calling on all his generals, Mundus decided to take action.
As you know, the human Resistance has put down yet another fleet of our kind. They have become most taxing. They must be put down. Sparda, from now on, you will be in charge of eliminating the Resistance. Do not hesitate. Kill them all.
And with that order, Sparda called upon his comrade Beowulf and several other lower-class demons. Descending from the underworld, Sparda and his soldiers prepared to slaughter every human in sight. The first human to fall before Sparda's sword was an innocent man, not even part of the Resistance. Beowulf charged through the town, smashing several huts with his bare hands. Suddenly, humans began to rise from underground catacombs and reveal themselves on tall rooftops, wielding bows and arrows. They were a small sect of the Resistance prepared to defend this part of the town. There were 500 of them in total, and they greatly outnumbered Sparda's small army. However, this was not enough. The humans on rooftops shot their arrows, and the humans on the ground attacked with spears and swords, but they only managed to kill a few demons. Sparda stood in the middle of all this, and looked around as if studying the way the humans fought and moved.
So slow, so unskilled.
He thought. Suddenly a man, actually larger than Sparda, clad in black armor wielding a mace, attacked without warning. The mace crashed into Sparda's body, but did nothing. The man swung the mace again, but this time Sparda blocked it with his forearm, knocking the man off balance. Before the man could even realize he was under attack, Sparda had sliced the man's mace-wielding arm off and stabbed him through the chest. The humans fell left and right as the supernaturally powered demons overwhelmed them. Sparda seemed to fly around the battle and only attacked when he saw a human who showed at least minimal skill at swordplay. The battle lasted mere minutes. Almost all the men were slain and some had fled. Only one man remained who laid on the ground weaponless.
No! Please don't.
Sparda slowly approached the man until he stood directly above him.
You are evil. We will eradicate your kind from this world.
Sparda looked at the man in a peculiar manner, then resheathed his sword on his back. He then picked the man up by his throat and pulled him in closely to look him in his eyes. His look was one of curiosity that changed to disgust in an instant. His grip tightened on the man's neck, and then there was a sudden snap. He dropped the man and looked back at Beowulf.
Go back to Lord Mundus. Tell him the first wave has been destroyed.
Chapter 3. A demon's mercy. 2 years ago, during the portal opening, the blood goyle that snatched Anna off the top of the Temen grew. The architect was so consumed by the opening of the portal that he did not notice, nor would he have cared that his daughter was now lost to him. The goyle sought to take Anna back to the underworld, but by a stroke of luck, it was unintentionally blindsided by another flying demon, and Anna fell from the sky, her tattered dress getting caught on a broken offshoot of a building, saving her life.
Here! Take my hand!
Anna looked up to see a bearded man extending his hand. She was full of fear and still traumatized from the fall, but she still had enough sense to take his hand. As Anna slouched down to the ground, crying, the man spoke again.
We must get underground. They will continue to come.
Anna ignored the man and continued to weep. As he attempted to console her, she backed away.
It's okay, child. You can trust me. My name is Abel. What's yours?
Hearing the kindness in the man's voice, Anna responded.
My name is Anna, and I am not a child.
Anna stood erect to reveal the body of a 20-year-old woman.
I see.
Abel then picked up a book off the ground and dusted it off.
What is that?
Anna inquired.
What this? It is the truth, my dear. The key to our salvation.
Salvation?
Yes. The words in this book shall echo for many generations and will be a tool to fight the evil that has befallen us this day.
Anna continued to look at the book very strangely.
What troubles you, child?
My mother used to carry a book like that. She said it was the only way to save my father, but it did not save him, so I stopped reading it.
Anna appeared shaken as she tightly clinched onto her clothing.
It's okay.
The man then took an encrusted white gold necklace from around his neck and placed it in Anna's hands.
You have lost the way. Come with me. I will guide and protect you.
Having no other option, Anna took Abel's hand and they fled away together in the shadows. Back to post-activation during Sparda's crusade through the human world.
Tell me, Sparda, how many times have you ventured into the human realm?
Munda's voice was one of curiosity. Since Sparda left the demon realm to put down the human resistance, he had come back to it less and less.
72 times.
Sparda's response was quick and to the point.
And how many humans have you and your army killed?
624,382.
The large and impressive number runs off of Sparda's tongue, as naturally as water flows through rivers.
Good. However, it is not good enough. Those humans, those despicable fleshy beings, are still able to put down our smaller forces. This is not acceptable in the least. I want the humans eradicated, and I want you to do it.
You want me to go alone?
Sparda's voice indicated an almost pleasant overtone at the thought of going to the human realm alone.
No. I want you to take a small fleet of your strongest. I want you to find the leader of this human resistance and kill him. Without their leader, the humans will fall.
And how do you propose I find their leader?
The same way any general studies his enemy. Very carefully.
And Sparda once again descended into the human realm with an army of his strongest soldiers, this time with a distinct objective: eliminate the head of the human resistance.
Sparda, how will we find him, their leader?
Beowulf asked. Sparda was silent and surveyed his surroundings. Not much was left of the buildings and huts that once surrounded the base of the Temen grew. Not one human remained in its vicinity, at least not in plain sight.
Sparda, how will...
Quiet!
Sparda cut off Beowulf and kept his red eyes fixed off into the distance. The abyss, frosts, and hell vanguards that surrounded him began to grow anxious.
Sparda, When are we going to attack?
The frost was immediately quieted by the slice of Sparda's sword. Then Sparda finally broke his silence.
Do you hear that? Hear what, General?
Suddenly there was a very faint sound in the background similar to that of a bell tolling.
That? Yes, but where is it coming from?
Beowulf inquired. Sparda lifted his sword and pointed.
That way.
As Sparda and his fleet made their way through the broken town, they came to a heavily forested area.
There.
Sparda's voice was stern and direct.
Where? I do not see anything. You must look beyond what your eyes can see, old friend.
Sparda then took his sword and swung it upwards with light speed, creating a narrow pathway where the overhanging trees were. And behind these trees, nested in the cover of the forest, was a small monastery, which, if it weren't for Sparda's keen senses, may have never been found by the demons.
Their leader is in there.
Sparda calculated.
But how do you know, General? Just put yourself in their position. If you were them, where would your leader be?
The vanguards and frosts seemed very confused by this answer and fell back in line. A gathering seemed to be occurring inside the monastery, and Sparda stood, ready to give the order. After a few more moments of silence, Sparda spoke.
Do not leave any alive. Show no mercy. Go!
The bells of the monastery rang, calling for an assembly. The people quickly filed in and filled the holy house, leaving only room for people to stand. As the commotion quieted down, a man took the pulpit, with a woman sitting behind him.
Good evening, my brothers.
The sanctuary, full of men and some women, responded in unison.
Good evening!
The man then continued to speak.
We are gathered here today because we are on a mission.
Several men in the audience responded with their yells as the intensity began to build.
We are on a mission to defend ourselves, to stand up to a new menace. These creatures from hell. These are dark times. Yes, but this is not a time for weakness.
The man's voice grew louder and his statements more profound.
We will not roll over. We will not give up. We will stand, and we will fight. Husbands and fathers, you must protect your wives and daughters. Wives and mothers, you must not question the will of your husbands and sons, for his word is law, and he needs your support now more than ever. We attempted to prevent this evil before, but we failed. This time, we will not fail.
The energy inside the sanctuary became more intense, and a constant uproar arose from the crowd. Men, clad in armor with weapons in hand, stood and pumped their fist as they cheered the man on. They began to chant his name, their leader.
Abel! Abel! Abel!
Then one of the men from the crowd spoke out loudly.
We must take the fight to them, Abel. No more waiting in the shadows for them to attack us.
Yeah!
The other men yelled.
Brutus, I know how it pains you to use such tactics, but it is the only way. We tried to take the fight to them before, but too many lives were lost. We cannot risk that again.
But we can, Abel. We are smarter than them. We can organize an effort. Listen to me, brethren. Any lives we lose in battle will be atoned for. Our will is stronger than theirs. Our courage outweighs their numbers. I do not care how strong these monsters are. No monster is strong enough to...
Suddenly a thunderous clash erupted from the back of the sanctuary as Beowulf exploded through, immediately destroying the balcony, killing a few. Beowulf roared as the men and women scattered. Raising his arms, his demonic power of light pulsed through his veins. Like an anti-beacon of hope, Beowulf began to tear his way through the room. Abel looked on in disbelief.
Oh, dear God. Save us, Father.
As the frost flooded into the sanctuary, Brutus pulled out his sword.
Brothers, To arms!
Then all the men in the sanctuary took out their blades and shields and charged the incoming demons. Vanguards trampled over pews, piercing the humans' body armor with their sharp scythes. The women, unable to run, begged for mercy, but only tasted the sharp claws of the powerful demons. Beowulf swung his arms back and forth, clearing the room of would-be attackers, and Sparda stood at the monastery entrance with his scaly arms crossed, watching the debacle with a grimace. One of the men then took out a large battle axe and headed straight for Sparda. His head was severed before he could even lift his axe. Sparda resheathed his sword and continued to watch. At the front of the sanctuary by the pulpit, Abel watched on in horror. He then gained his bearings and turned to the woman who was sitting behind him.
We must get out of here. We will go through the exit in the back.
Okay.
The woman said, full of fear, her hands shaking as they clinched onto an old dark brown book. Then, unexpectedly, a vanguard rammed the end of his scythe into the spinal column of Abel, held him up, then slammed him to the ground.
Abel, no!
The woman screamed. As the demon was about to do the same to her, Brutus ran it through with his sword and smacked it away with his shield.
Get out of here, Anna! You are second in command. We cannot lose you as well.
Anna looked at Brutus, fear and grief gripping her heart, but she understood as her legs began to move instinctively, as she headed towards the front corner of the room, where a fake wall was located, revealing a secret door which led to a secret hallway at the bottom of a stairwell. As she looked back, she saw the carnage as her eyes focused on the body of the kind, gentle man who saved her all those years ago. Sparda watched on as the woman fled through a hidden door in the front of the sanctuary. He walked past all the carnage around him to follow suit. He then touched the wall where the woman had disappeared. As he pushed, it began to open up like a revolving door. Behind the door was a dark spiral staircase that led downward. Sparda could hear the quick footsteps of the woman echo as she ran. When he made it to the bottom of the stairwell, there was a long hallway with a series of rooms lined on each side. Sparda began to walk cautiously down the hallway. As he came to the first door, he opened it with his sword and peered in, noticing only a desk and a stack of books. When he came to the second room, he did the same, and still saw nothing of any significance. He made his way all the way down to the last room of the dead-end hallway. This one he opened with his clawed hand and stepped in. The room was slightly larger than the others and depended on a small candle for its lighting. Sparda walked over to the workbench near the back of the room, on which sat more old text. He picked up one of the books and thumbed through it, trying to make sense of the words, foreign to his eyes.
Ha!
Suddenly the woman jumped from behind the door with blade in hand, attempting to stab Sparda in the back. With supernatural speed, Sparda reacted, slapping the knife out of her hand, causing her to fall to the floor. His blade hung inches from her nose, as she was now at his mercy. As their eyes met, Sparda paused and stood frozen in a daze.
What are you waiting for? Aren't you going to kill me? Come on, I'm right here.
Seeing that Sparda hesitated to attack, Anna tried to get up and run, but ran right into Sparda, hitting his grey exoskeleton armor with a thud. She fell backward from the shock and tried to crawl away. Sparda walked slowly toward her, turning his sword into a spear. She cried without making any sound. The tears pouring from her face caught Sparda's eye. Emotions, at least in the way humans experience them, are something demons are devoid of, and it stops him dead in his tracks. Silence runs like high tension between them. He doesn't know whether to kill or not. She doesn't know whether to run or not. The silence is broken by Beowulf's deep voice, calling from inside the monastery.
Sparda, we've cleared out most of them, although some escaped underground. Should we follow them?
Sparda looked into the woman's eyes and sees hope.
That's where she was running to.
He thinks. Beowulf's voice called again.
Sparda, is it clear?
Sparda's eyes narrowed almost to a close, looking at the woman. Confusion pulsed through his head, like a bug trying to work its way loose.
Sparda, is it clear?
Sparda continued to look into her eyes, still slightly dazed, but he does not know why. He then regains his train of thought.
It's clear!
He screams, almost cutting Beowulf off. His sword returns back to normal, and he steps over the woman and exits the chamber. He doesn't give her a second look, but she follows him with her eyes until he melts away in the darkness. She remained huddled in the shadow of a large statue until she heard the screams stop, and the sound of Sparda's walking is nothing more but a memory. She slowly gets up and makes her way down the hallway and peeks out into the now lifeless sanctuary. Fires still burn from both the humans and the demons. Bodies lay strewn out like animal skins. Without a conscious command, almost by surprise to herself, her legs begin the run, and she heads for the underground, where the resistance can plan a battle, where she can gather her strength, where she can wonder why that demon spared her life, unlike he did to hundreds more that night. Chapter 4. The Human Resistance.
How many died?
A man speaks. His clothes were covered in blood, the blood of his family. His tone was that of a leader. His bald head, covered with sweat, glared against the fire built into the wall carved from dirt.
It's hard to tell. We would have counted the heads, but it was difficult to tell what was what. Didn't know if you were looking at a head or not.
Answered a second man. Long dark hair covered his face. Both men were dressed in common clothes, simple shirts, dark pants and sandals. The first hangs his head in his hands. Sounds of those who survived the attack resonates through the walls of the underground hideout of the resistance. Screams of those that were dying, screams of those who wished they were dead. No one was silent, except for Anna. Cuddled up in a corner, facing the wall, her thoughts ran rampant.
How did we not prevent this? Why did they kill so many? How did they even know? Were they waiting all these years? Why didn't it kill me?
The first man touched Anna's shoulder, startling her a little.
I know this is a silly question, but how are you holding up?
She simply smiled and nodded her head slightly. Her young eyes were still wet from her cries of pain hours before.
Abel was a great man. He died with honor. He left you with his legacy. You can always see part of him in your beautiful daughter.
Anna looked up to a small cradle fashioned out of wicker and vines. Inside, sleeping peacefully, was an infant girl covered in warm white cloths.
Has it really been 2 years already?
Anna thought. The man continued to speak as he wrapped his arm around her.
You have his words inside of you. You can lead us. I know you can.
Anna did not respond to his words of encouragement. Her frozen face indicated thoughts of an intense trauma. As she sat there, her mind repeatedly flashed the image of Abel's face as he released his last breath. All she could think was why. Why did they have to take the man who had given her hope again? Why have we been subjected to such torture? This is no way to live. The long-haired man walked over to a man at a large table, fashioning weapons to fight the demons, and lifts a large crystal ball accented in pewter. A silver liquid splashed inside the hollow ball.
What is this one?
He asks. The man behind the table, face covered by large glasses, doesn't take his eyes away from his work.
It's mercury with white oak and silver shavings.
What does it do?
Well...
The man got up from the table and walked over to a pile of demon carcasses that had accumulated during the night. Raising the glass orb above his head, he smashed it down on one of the corpses. The glass shattered, and as the silver liquid erupted over the body of the demon, it twitched and convulsed. Finally, it dissolved into nothing.
You see?
He picks up a piece of the orb and sticks his finger in some of the concoction.
It hurts them, but not us. Call it holy water.
The spectacle catches the eye of Anna, who walks over to the man.
Even, will that work on the big ones?
The men look at her, surprised that she has spoken.
You mean like that big light creature? Or that ice hound?
Yeah.
She nods. Her eyes begin to fill with something, like a seed has been planted inside her.
I honestly have no idea. The big ones are a lot stronger, and we haven't found anything bigger than these fodder. Not even so much as a corpse.
The feeling in the atmosphere begins to drop, but one man breaks the silence, attempting to lighten the dark mood.
That a boy, Ivan? I always knew that brain of yours would come in handy one day.
Brutus puts down the holy water and lifts a large green orb.
And this one? More alchemy.
I used a corpse of the flying demons with the green back. The dust, they admit, brings fallen demons who have not died yet back to full strength. Using that same dust, I have created these green stars. They recover lost life. In case you get hurt, break those things on your body and you will be as good as new. I haven't thought of a name for that one.
Well, as long as everything works to get those bugs out, I don't care if any of it has a name or not.
A man milling in the crowd yells over.
How are we gonna get rid of all of them?
The bald-headed man opens his mouth to talk, but Anna speaks, now standing at the table.
We can't. We just need to show them we aren't open for making neighbors. Abel once told me that it is in our darkest hour that we must be steadfast, and it is in this hour that we also find hope. Who knows? Maybe we'll find one that will help us.
Her thoughts are locked on Sparda, the demon who spared her life. Protests are heard from all over.
With all due respect, Anna, that is blasphemy. Help us? Why would they ever help us?
She turns to a large group of people. People who've lost hope, who've lost everything.
You've seen how bad it can get. You've seen what our own kind, our own people, are capable of. If there are humans as evil as any devil, then why aren't there demons that are as kind and compassionate as humans?
Demons are demons. Humans are humans. End of story. We need to kill as many of these things as we can, and that's the only thing that matters to me. But how are we gonna do that when some of them seem like they can't be killed?
Calls a man from the back. He is backed up by the rest of the crowd, full of adrenaline and anxiety.
Okay then.
Anna smiles and reaches to the table, lifting a large weapon that has been worked on for years. Capable of firing small balls of iron, they called this gaudy weapon a pistol.
You just saw what some of these weapons can do?
She turns back to the crowd and fills the pistol with iron balls.
We simply bring their hell to them.
Her eyes don't appear as young anymore. Mere minutes ago, they were those of a loving girl now. They are those of a warrior.
How many were killed?
Munda's deep voice, ever present but always absent in hell, echoes in his benevolent white hall. Sparda stands with Beowulf and the remaining vanguards and frosts from the battle.
Thousands throughout their world.
Sparda answers. The inexact number from Sparda puzzles Mundus a bit, but he continues.
Any problems? A few dozen escaped. We have Beelzebubs burrowing to find them.
Beelzebubs are low-class demons that resemble large flies, excellent at digging and living underground.
I cannot say I am pleased with the fact that humans were able to outsmart you, Sparda, but I am pleased nonetheless.
Mundus pauses for a brief moment.
What do you think of the human world?
He asks Sparda. Sparda never gave it much thought. He was torn. On one hand, his demonic soul screams how horrible and disgusting it is. On the other, his mind rambles on about how majestic it is. the beauty of it.
It is
His words trail off.
manageable. Excellent. Sparda, you will be in charge of planning my rule over these two worlds. You will spend much time in their world. Do you believe you can handle it?
Munda's question drips with sarcasm.
For you, Master, of course.
Sparda's words drip equally with sarcasm.
Besides,
He thinks,
it's time not wasted on you.
a voice comes from behind the throne of Mundus.
My lord, let me go with Sparda. I could be of great assistance to him.
This demon appeared very similar to Sparda, but had wings made of thick black feathers and more pronounced horns.
No, Azrael, this is to be Sparda's mission and his alone. But, Master, do not question my will, servant. You shall do as I say.
The demon lowers his head and glances over at Sparda with vindictive eyes, and Sparda looks back, creating an awkward tension.
Yes, Master.
He growls.
Now, as Sparda will be in the human realm, you will be here. You are now charged with maintaining and expanding my rule in the unconquered lands of the underworld. Do I make myself clear, Azrael? Yes, Master. Good. Now leave my presence. With Sparda spending much of his time in the human world, I'm moving Beowulf to first in command of the army. Alastor will be joining you from now on, Beowulf.
As Alastor enters the room, a rogue's gallery of swords takes shape. 3 high-ranking demons, all similar in appearance, standing in the shape of Mundus's eyes, with Beowulf the dead center.
Sparda, go to the human world. Continue work there as usual. Report back in a week's time.
Chapter 5. Away from the Darkness. The anatomy of a demon differs vastly from that of a human. Internal organs are used mostly for blood supply. Organs like the stomach and the digestive system are not present, as demons do not eat in the traditional sense. Skeletal structure is as different as each clan, if a demon even has a skeleton or a physical body. Some are more energy-based, others have bodies as frail as a human's. Some still have skin or exoskeletons, tougher and stronger than any armor a human could forge. And there are some demons still that can even regenerate lost limbs and recover from injury extraordinarily fast. These kinds of demons tend to be the most powerful. Some have lifespans like that of a housefly. Others, though, by human years, Sparda has lived close to 800 years already. He was well into his adolescence at the Battle of Argasax. In his still young demonic life, only around 30 demons' years, he's seen and experienced so much, but he's never actually felt. Demons do not have feelings in the way humans have them. They have dark souls. But Sparda was changing. Metaphysical changes that no demon has ever even contemplated. These changes, in the very fabric of his dark being, started that night when he locked eyes with the human Anna. Since then, he's felt a hurricane-like blast of all kinds of emotions, the most prominent of which is burning curiosity. Curious as to why he feels now, what he feels, what makes him feel, why different things trigger different emotions. But most of all, the one feeling that's always there is a strange yearning for something he's not aware of. He had spent weeks in the human world considering all of these things, safely away from the ever-present influence of Mundus. During his time in the human world, he'd also been watching a group of humans that were part of the resistance. He began to see definitive differences in the humans as well. He was now able to tell them apart. When he first arrived in the human world, they all looked the same, simple flesh-ridden beings. They all looked the same, Except for... Sparda whispered in his demonic tongue. A rush of excitement hit Sparda like a tidal wave at the sight of Anna, tinkering around a mud hut, doing this and that. She moved around the camp, doing things Sparda didn't pay attention to. Sometimes she needs to move away from the trees and bushes Sparda hides behind, and sometimes she moves closer to them. The times she moves closer are the times Sparda embraces. The excitement pumps through his body like adrenaline. Excitement. One of the emotions Sparda doesn't quite know how to control. His smooth grey face almost poked out from the bushes where he watched her. She was dressed differently than she was in the monastery weeks before. On this night, she looked more like a battle-ready soldier than she did in her simple white peasant dress. She now wore tall black boots with gold buckles on the side over brown pantaloons, bound by leather straps, decorated with assorted knives, holy waters, and the pistol she had become accustomed to over the past few weeks. A brown book was latched to her hip, and small cases of iron pellets lined her waist like a belt, and up her slender frame she wore a white three-button shirt that hung off her shoulders, revealing her collarbone. Her long dark hair was now pulled into a ponytail and swayed as she walked, and around her neck she wore the now polished white gold necklace, fitted with a charm of sorts that Abel had given her over 2 years ago. What stands out most about her are her large blue eyes, shining in the moonlight. As she walks away from the trees, Sparda drowns himself in every detail of her. Across the camp, he notices 2 children kicking around a ball. To him, they are simply smaller, weaker humans, rather than developing beings. A little girl with short brown hair kicked the ball over to a barefoot little boy. The boy kicked the ball hard and sent it into the bushes where Sparda was hiding. The ball rolls and hits Sparda's foot. He looks down and picks it up to examine it. Suddenly, the little girl dashed into the bushes, apparently looking for the ball. Sparda sees her coming, but cannot move. He simply stands in the shadow of a tree holding the ball as she approached, his red eyes lowering in the darkness. The little girl sees the menacing silhouette of Sparda as he held the ball, but she was not afraid. She smiled and held out her hand, waiting for Sparda to give her the ball. Still very young, the little girl had no idea that she should probably fear this being. In her imaginative world, everything was fine, and the war between humans and demons was non-existent. Sparda sees the girl holding out her hand and realizes why she is doing so. He slowly reaches out with his clawed hand, holding the ball, and the little girl grabs it. She gives Sparda one more look, giggles, and bolts back into the camp to play with her friend. Becoming a bit wary of this encounter, Sparda ponders.
Will she warn the others?
Thinking his cover was blown, Sparda prepared to fly away, but was suddenly halted by a loud explosion coming from the camp. He turned back to see orange flames extending to the sky. Several people around the camp scattered, thinking the demons were attacking once again.
What the hell was that?
Called a man armed with sword in hand.
It's okay. My apologies.
The people looked on to see Ivan appear from the smoke and debris of the explosion.
It's okay, it was my fault.
What in the world did you do, Ivan?
Asked Anna.
Well, I managed to cultivate a very powerful material. It was extremely hard to extract. At any rate, as you saw, it has incredible effects.
Good. This will work well against the demons. How much of it do you have?
That's the thing. I have only managed to cultivate it in its raw state. It is extremely volatile in this state, to say the least. It would put you, as well as the demons, in grave danger. However, if I can manage to harness it in some form, maybe you would be able to carry it with you into battle.
All right, but until then, no more surprises, okay?
Okay, and for now, you can take this.
Ivan hands Anna a sleek bowgun.
I combined the structure of that pistol you have there with a bow. Now you do not have to fire the arrows with your own power. You can simply pull on this trigger, and the strength of the recoil will do the rest of the work.
Anna smiled as she admired the new weapon.
I don't know what we would do without you, Ivan.
No, you give me too much credit. I would not be able to do this without our collective effort.
Anna grinned and hooked the bowgun on the back of her belt. As she walked back over to a small den, Sparda watched her intensely. Suddenly, a shriek never heard by Sparda before startles him. He looks at Anna closely and notices her pick up another, smaller human wrapped in cloths. The baby continued to cry, waving its arms back and forth. Anna then began to rock the infant up and down very gently and whispered softly in its ear. Confused by the gesture, Sparda surveyed the camp once more. Then it finally sinks in. He started to actually see things, details to everything. The colors of the grass and leaves, the lights from the stars hanging in the sky, the way the air moved over his face, the way the dirt felt on his feet. It almost knocks him down. It's so much to take in, but his gaze turns back to the group of humans, and he takes in the details of what they are doing.
They're making weapons.
Like the ocean beating down a rock, bad news continues to hit Sparda. He remembers about his checkups with Mundus. His wings snap, and with tremendous power, he barrels through the air and blasts through the gate to hell. Deep inside the Temen Nigru, Geryon and his new rider, the once evil-obsessed architect of the Devil's Tower, now consumed by the soul and essence of the Dark Rider, sit majestically surrounded by hundreds of workers. Geryon's power radiated from his eyes, shining like rubies among the pale, washed-out, inverted environment, kept that way through his limited-range power of time control. The rider's smile pulls from ear to ear, teeth contorted and twisted in his rotting face. The disobedient workers hung lifeless in mid-air as long metal arrows jutted through their sternums.
Excellent slaves.
From the point of view of the rider, the slaves move at painstakingly slow speeds due to his effect on time. However, unlike his steed, Geryon, who can only null time, the Dark Rider, can null the mind as well, causing anyone within range to do his bidding. The lifeless bodies in the air scream of involuntary self-mutilation.
Now the final piece.
Hours seem to pass as the slaves slide the largest piece into place. Before them, a gift for their master, stands a statue of awesome size, a rendering of Mundus himself.
Good. Lord Mundus will be pleased.
Chapter 6. Moment of Truth. Stone ground crunched under Sparda's feet as he landed in the blinding white, benevolent hell. Sparda walks quickly and with purpose, but doesn't run. As he arrived in Mundus' chamber, a huge statue of a human sat in a matching chair. The statue was carved from the same stone as Mundus' body and appeared to be a resemblance of the Dark King, except for his beard. The statue's triangular eyes began to blaze with lightning as Sparda entered the room. Most demons would back away in fear, sensing the rage in Mundus. However, Sparda did not. He continued valiantly up to Beowulf and Alastor, who were reporting to Mundus. Sparda only catches the end of the conversation.
The human weapons won't be of much use to them. Those odd projectile weapons will do nothing more than irritate us.
Alastor's voice called to Mundus. His voice had a slight rasp to it, but he speaks with intelligence. Mundus' deep voice boomed from the statue.
Excellent, Alastor. You fill the shoes of a leader well.
Mundus paused and looked at Sparda.
Beowulf, do you have anything to report?
Beowulf's bark-like voice seeped from his fang-encrusted mouth.
Nothing Alastor hasn't told you.
Mundus hears something in Beowulf's voice he doesn't like. Red lightning flies from the statue and covers Beowulf. He falls to the ground and Mundus releases him. Mundus waits and sees if Beowulf will talk. Beowulf's grey body pours smoke as he struggles to maintain consciousness.
Is there something you'd like to add?
Beowulf turned his head and glared at Sparda. He then turned back toward the statue.
Not here, not now.
Mundus knows why Beowulf does not speak.
And you?
Mundus' voice was now directed at Sparda. As Beowulf crawled backward, Sparda stepped forward. He inspects the statue, a gift from the humans, as they see Mundus.
I've heard reports from multiple demons, Sparda, multiple high-ranking demons, that you've been watching some of the humans very closely.
Sparda doesn't respond. The statue glows with energy.
I came to check in.
Sparda finally breaks his silence.
Yes, of course. Beowulf, Alastor.
Mundus called.
Show the flesh creatures that their weapons are useless against us. Go now.
The two generals turn and head for the portal.
Sparda.
Mundus calls a final time.
Don't even think about doing anything or I'll know. I don't yet know why you waste so much time watching them, but I will find out. You are a demon, and never forget that.
Sparda's sword clicks and becomes a large spear.
I never will.
The battle was short and bloody. As Sparda rampaged through the field, rage built up inside of him. In the face of each of his victims, he saw Mundus. For the moment, he had forgotten the time he'd spent in the human realm recently. His dark soul was now at work, and it only angered him more. Sparda killed at least 6 humans that night. He could see Beowulf and Alastor heading back through the portal after killing hundreds. He uses his foot and slides a human's body off his sword. He wiped the blade against his leg, cleaning the blood off. Suddenly, the feeling of cold steel against his rough armored neck catches him by surprise. He slowly turned around and met eyes with his soon-to-be 61st kill. His head lifts slightly as he sees who it is. Anna's harmonic voice, calm and cool, fills Sparda's dark soul with emotions again. His hand slowly grips his sword, but Anna holds the pistol up to his chest. Sparda stops, but doesn't let go. Anna realizes who she is about to shoot and speaks.
It's you! Why have you come back here? Didn't you get your fill of murder the last time? Well, I should kill you where you stand right now!
Sparda did not respond, but instead continued looking into her eyes, his rage slowly subsiding but struggling to reach the surface again.
So, you have nothing to say. Good. I would rather not know the sound of your horrible tongue anyway. You spared my life once. Unlike you, I will not grant you the same courtesy.
Sparda is taken by surprise again. Never before has he understood the human language. Suddenly, Anna was firing a barrage of bullets at Sparda from close range. As she fired, Sparda dodged with ease, still holding onto the handle of his sword, clamped to his back. Realizing that her pistol would be of no use, Anna stopped firing and looked at Sparda in terror. She was still within close range and waited for Sparda to make his fatal move. Then, something unexpected happened. His ego inflating, Sparda opened his mouth and tried to speak the human language.
It would be wise if you don't use that weapon. I don't want to kill you.
His words were slow, but he spoke with a surprising level of intelligence. In shock, Anna dropped her arm.
You...
Sparda watches her with confusion as she began to breathe very deeply, as if something was stuck inside her chest. Memories of her father flood her brain.
Do you like it? I made it myself. Consider it a good luck charm. You know I love you and your mother very much. I would never do anything to hurt you. Do not worry, Anna. I will not be gone for long. I need you.
Father, no!
She cups her free hand over her face, concealing her tears. After a few seconds, in rage, she pointed the gun at Sparda again. With a flash, his sword is at her throat. They stand locked onto each other. Sparda looks in her eyes and sees her tears. She looks into Sparda's eyes and sees a glimpse of what could have been a soul peering through. The glimpse calms her to an extent, and she feels as though she can let her guard down, but not her gun. Her voice breaks the tension in Sparda.
What's your name?
He looks at her and remains silent for a few seconds.
Sparda.
His voice seemed to echo against itself in this new language.
Sparda? What does it mean?
Anna's gun still drives into Sparda, although it doesn't make contact.
What is in a name? If I'm called something else, would I not be the same?
The way Sparda speaks hit Anna as extremely odd.
You don't speak like a demon. You know our language, and you also have intelligence in your dark soul. Why? Are you trying to be a human? Because you can't.
Her tone becomes angry and aggressive.
I've watched your kind for weeks. I suppose I have learned a few things.
He looks at her tears again and points with his sword.
Why do you do that?
Anna uses her free hand to wipe the tears from her cheeks.
Cry? Why do I cry? It's part of an emotion called pain. It happens when you're hurt, but a demon like you wouldn't understand that.
You are right. Devils never cry.
Anna becomes angry again and screams at Sparda.
No! No emotions! You don't feel anything! Compassion, love, joy, pain, all meaningless to you! Look at this!
Anna draws Sparda's attention to the silent and bloody battlefield around him.
Look at what you've done to my people!
Her tears began to well up again.
Slaughtered like animals! And you can do this all because you do not care! You don't even know what it means to care! You have no feelings!
Sparda maintains his composure and responds calmly to Anna's anger.
Oh, this is the second time I've had my sword ready for you, and yet you still stand. Not many are alive today to make that claim. And if I do not feel, then what is this odd feeling I have in my chest? Like I've been hit by an enemy? Is that what you call pain? And if so, isn't that an emotion?
Her eyes still filled with anger, Anna corrects him.
No, that's called compassion.
Sparda lowers his head to the ground, almost taken in by the feeling in his chest.
I see.
Anna lowers her pistol and tilts her head, as if to see Sparda for the first time, actually see him. For a brief second, she thinks she sees a man.
You aren't like them, are you?
Sparda quickly raises his head, leaving no space between Anna's words and his own.
I am a demon. No matter what happens, I always will be a demon.
Off into the shadows, in the dark clouds of the sky, overlooking the unlikely scene, was a being of incredible power, a being who ruled the underworld. The lightning red triangular eyes dangled above the clouds as they looked down upon the battlefield, and just as they appeared, they faded away without making a sound. Chapter 7 of Loyalty and Dissension.
We can't pull it off alone.
Samson erupts at Thaddeus. His bald head always seems to glisten when he's distraught.
And even if we could, I'm going in that abomination of a building without a full battalion.
Thaddeus' demeanor was a trademark of his own. A rather frightening-looking man, he always wore dark clothing, and his long hair covered his face. Sometimes, when the light hit him just right, he still looked like a member of his old clan.
Quit your whining, Samson. What do you expect us to do? Sit around and serve ourselves up on a silver platter for those unholy creatures?
A small group of warriors, numbering around 2 dozen, stood behind Thaddeus, who calmed himself to a reasonable level and walked next to Samson. He placed a hand on Samson's shoulder and leaned close to his ear.
You know Abel would have wanted us to be in command, not some woman.
Samson's look becomes angry, and he turns to face Thaddeus.
I'm not doubting her will or power as leader. Between the both of us, we've got more years of experience than Anna has even lived. She's just a girl. Besides, I, unlike her, know the layout of that tower.
Only because you were one of Dorman's helpers.
Samson says quietly.
I changed, Samson. I realized.
I don't care what kind of realization you had with Abel.
People change, brother.
People are also shaped by their past.
The two men both had logic that was undeniable. They both sit, looking over everything. Thoughts ran rampant through Samson's mind.
Thaddeus is right. We've not gotten anywhere following Anna. And we do have plenty of military experience. But disobeying Anna is like disobeying Abel.
A man from the crowd breaks the silence.
Are we gonna get on with it or what?
Shut up, I'm thinking.
A beat passes before Samson finally speaks. Samson realized that following Thaddeus's lead could turn out for the worse, but he could not help but think about the far worse fate the humans may incur if they continue to follow Anna. Thus, there was only one resolve for Samson.
All right, Thaddeus, you take point.
The Devil's Tower stretched into the hopeless abyss that used to be a sky.
It just keeps going.
A soldier said, looking straight up into the sky, still not seeing the top.
I've never actually been this close to it.
Well, you're about to be a lot closer to it,
Thaddeus said, moving through the group of soldiers, his hair twisting in the wind. He moved in front of the crowd and turned to them.
All right, brothers. So far, we've not been able to pull off what we're going to do tonight. Failure is not an option.
A hulking figure of a man comes out of the crowd, carrying a large grappling hook with a rope hundreds of feet long.
That ledge up there. Hook onto that ledge.
Thaddeus points.
You men!
He points towards a large opening in the side of the tower.
Go in through there. Make your way upward. And no matter what you may think or see, keep moving up and in.
The rogue faction splits in half, one part heading up the rope high into the tower, the other running full bore through a back entrance. The faction heading through the back door made it in first. They entered into a large circular room, decorated sparely with torches. As they moved closer to a door in the back of the room, they began to feel a rush of horridly cold air.
Hey, we've got a problem. My boots are stuck to the floor.
A soldier says. The others turn to help their comrade. As they try to pull his feet off the floor, the room begins to shake violently. A deep, bellowing voice that seems to echo as it speaks almost breaks the soldier's eardrums.
Powerless mortals, you are not worthy to set foot here.
A soldier, remembering the words of Thaddeus, stands tall, spear drawn.
Step forth from the shadows, unholy creature, and meet your demise.
A roar as deep as a lion's brings the entire faction to its knees. Sleet and hail began to whip across the faces of the soldiers, with air so cold that a blizzard rises, blinding most of the soldiers. Screams of terror filled the room, almost drowned out by the howling storm. The leader of the faction falls on his back and hears a blast of air barreling towards him. He rolls out of the way and hears his brother, still frozen to the floor, screaming in pain. He grabs the leg of his brother and pulls himself up to see his brother encrusted in ice. A huge ice-covered claw swipes through the air, cutting a gash in the leader's chest, spilling his intestines and shattering his fallen brother. As he lays in the frozen meat and blood of his dead friend, a set of orange eyes fades out of the blizzard, followed by a set of green and a set of yellow. The huge dog-like creature stood over the dying soldiers, drool pouring from his 3 heads, around his huge fangs and freezing. The enormous hellhound then spoke.
You shall all die slowly until you know the meaning of suffer.
The other group, heading up the side of the tower, finally reach their destination. Several soldiers take off their large, clunky, hot armor. Thaddeus and Samson lead the way through 2 large doors lined with chains. Samson totting a spear, Thaddeus with a bow. Another door stood across a large rectangular room between 2 twin pillars. As they made their way across the room, they were greeted by hollow voices, one slightly deeper than the other, but almost identical in every other way.
Brother, I'm afraid we have yet more guests. I see that.
The soldiers stopped dead in their tracks and listened to the twin voices.
Must we entertain them as well? Of course. Well, the others wouldn't let us entertain them. Don't sound so solemn, brother.
As the 2 voices continued to carry on, the soldiers looked around to see the bodies of fallen brothers.
What sort of entertainment do we have waiting for us?
One whispers.
We are gracious hosts.
One voice answers.
Hosts? Like a party?
Samson asks.
Finally, guests that don't want to go through. Maybe now we can have a little fun.
But we must go through.
Thaddeus calls out. Samson turned to grab his mouth shut, but the damage was done. Trails of fire whip down one pillar, while hurricane force winds whip around the room.
We could have been great hosts to you. So true, but we cannot let you pass.
A twister of flames barrels down toward the soldiers. Riding it, 2 twin demonic gatekeepers, one red, one blue, both headless, and carrying matching large scimitars. Deep within the underworld, the rebellious army has been gathered again. Lightning cracks in the sky as Mundus appeared. Taking a moment to look around, he sees everyone in his army. Everyone but one.
Loyal servants, I am glad to see all of you are here. However, on this occasion, I must reveal the truth to you all.
The army becomes quiet, and everyone listens intently.
A traitor is among you.
Commotion stirs in the army. Mundus's voice roared in anger.
Silence. The traitor, who I've not yet identified, is among you. Again, it is time for all you to decide which side you will be on. A great battle is on the horizon. I tell all of you this with great confidence that you will choose correctly. Many great warriors stand here, and I tell you now, if you have the slightest doubt in my rule, step forward.
A few moments pass, and no one moves.
Excellent. As of now, I'm appointing Alastor as your new head general.
Purple lightning roars across the sky, and Alastor's sword falls in front of the army. From the dragon-head hilt of the broadsword and wing guard, Alastor appears, sparking with electricity.
From this point onward, you will answer to him and him alone.
The whole of the army falls to one knee.
Now leave us. Alastor. Yes, Master. As head general, there is something I must show you. A new weapon that has been worked on for decades now, born of my own mind. What sort of weapon is it?
Alastor asks, placing his sword in its scabbard.
One that shall bring nightmares to those before it.
Thaddeus and Samson, The sole survivors of the encounter of the demonic twins make it near the top of the tower. Still shaken from the bloodbath, Samson nervously asks,
"Now what, Thaddeus?"
Looking around, walking backwards in circles, he says,
"I'm not sure."
"Thaddeus, look out!"
By the time he turned, it was too late. He walked right into the red orb, triggering the booby trap. Suddenly, everything around them slowed to a crawl, and the colors inverted. The clopping of horse hooves is faintly heard as a gate of blue flame erupts. A fantastically huge horse, covered in blue flames, barreled through it. Behind it, a huge carriage carrying souls of the damned. The carriage swung around and stopped just in front of the almost helpless Thaddeus. Instantly, the rider of the horse was in the air, leaping off and moving towards Thaddeus at normal speeds. But to Thaddeus and Samson, he appeared to be moving so fast that he was hard to see.
Ah, Thaddeus, the one who turned. Imagine this power could have been yours.
The rider throws a punch through Thaddeus's head and releases the time control. Thaddeus' body crumples to the ground. Samson runs for the edge, but is almost stopped in mid-step by another orb. The rider steps in front of him.
A friend, poor freedom fighter.
Samson gets a good look at the man under the cloak and is shocked. The rider grabs him by the arm and throws him over the edge.
Where are they?
Anna roars, running through the underground. Samson's scream is heard even through the ground. Anna and others run up to the ground and out to the tower to find Samson on the verge of death, broken and bleeding.
Anna.
Samson, what happened?
Anna. Thaddeus. He wanted to move on without you. Wanted to. Oh God. The rider.
What rider?
A man. Or what used to be. He. Patch of hair on his chin. Short dark hair. And blue eyes. He carried a book.
Samson chokes to death on his own blood. Anna reaches up and closes his eyes.
Rest easy, brother.
As she walked away from him, through the crowd, a man came up to her.
What happened to them? Where are the others?
She began to play back the words of Samson in her mind. Suddenly, Anna's eyes widened as she froze in her tracks. She looked down at her right hand, which was now sweating as it involuntarily clinched a brown book.
What is it?
Asks the man. Not a word was spoken out loud, but one sentence repeated endlessly in Anna's mind.
Father? No, he's dead. Father?
Chapter 8. Good and Evil.
Sparda.
Munda's words come out slowly, but have a definitive tone of anxiousness. Sparda stood tall in front of the monument of Mundus, not even so much as twitching a muscle to bow.
Heed my words, servant. Tomorrow will be a day which will be remembered forever. The day I will begin my rule of both worlds. We will make a final assault on their realm. Make sure all the generals are ready to gain complete control of the human world. Report back to me immediately.
And with that, Sparda was off. Still blindly believing he was the general of Hell's army, unaware that he was playing into a trap laid out by Mundus to crush the would-be monkey wrench in his plans for total domination. Making his way through Temen Nigru, Sparda was out to continue Mundus' bidding until it suited him to stop. The continued growth of emotions inside of Sparda left him dazed and confused most of the time, if for no other reason than to understand what each meant. Sometimes he has to visit Anna in order to understand any emotions new to him. Some of them, however, he already knew. His rebelliousness towards Mundus both frightened and excited him. Knowing that standing up to a being like Mundus meant death, or worse. The disgust he felt towards being merely a servant angered him, but he didn't know why he felt it. This is what sent him to Anna that night. On his way, he visits the generals within the tower. His first stop was through the arachnid nest to talk to Phantom, but he only finds Arachne.
Phantom has abandoned his post,
he thinks. Through the firestorm chamber, Agni and Rudra give him a cold shoulder, not uttering a word, or even a breath to him. Sparda began to feel like an exile among his own people. He goes deeper into the Temen Nigru, to the opera house. Just outside the cathedral door to the electric witch's lair, Sparda hears the scream of a human. He casually swings open the door and finds Nevan hunched over a man, sucking him dry of blood. He turns to see Sparda, and a huge, fang-filled smile grows over her face.
Hey, sugar. I knew you'd come back.
She strolls over to Sparda, wiping the blood from her face. Except for her crimson hair covering her chest, she was totally nude, her turquoise body contrasting to the orange glow of the opera house.
Cover yourself, wench.
Sparda turns his head away. Nevan huffs and summons bats to cover her lower half, creating a dress.
So, hon, I guess you're not here to see me?
She says as she walks away from Sparda, planting a seat on the stairs of the stage. She looks at him with a pouting lip.
I am, but not for the reason you want.
Oh, shame, sugar.
She leans back and opens her legs a little. Sparda maintains his eyes on her until he feels a tugging at his leg. He quickly looks down to see another man with 2 scabs on his neck.
Please, help me.
A new tidal wave hits Sparda.
Nothing I can do for him,
he thinks. He does the only thing he can think of. With a flash, Sparda pierces his sword through the man's heart, killing him instantly.
Ooh, how merciless,
Nevan says, obviously turned on by Sparda's display of power. She goes to his side instantly.
You sure you're not here to see me?
She runs her hand over Sparda's face. His clawed hand jumps to hers, breaking her wrist. He throws her to the ground next to her old victim.
A little kinky for you, hun,
she says, not even fazed.
Mundus says to be ready. Tomorrow is the day he takes over this world.
Sparda turns and walks out the door. He hears the words of Mundus echoing in his head to report back after he'd alerted the generals.
I must see her,
he thinks as he comes out of the Temen Nigru. Nighttime in the human world always seemed the same to humans, but to Sparda, he saw the difference in the positions of the stars from the previous night. The blackness of the night sky even had a brilliant color to it in his eyes. Wind rushed over his armor-plated skin and would give him goosebumps if his anatomy would allow it. The glow from the portal high in sky makes the night seem like dawn, radiating light everywhere for miles. The human world always seemed cold to Sparda. How can creatures such as her? His gaze finally hit Anna's. She freezes in mid-step and quickly looks up and down Sparda, trying to make sure it was him. Just as quick as he made eye contact, she ducks into the bushes.
Does she still fear me?
It reverberates in Sparda's mind the entire time he gives chase. By the time he gets to the bushes and jumps through, she's gone. He looks around quickly to see a few tree limbs snapping back to place. He leaps through the limbs and sees a few fresh marks on a tree a few feet away. He slowly walks to the tree, inspecting his surroundings, looking for Anna. He looks up into the tree hand to hilt, expecting to see her. He sees nothing, but hears a click behind his head.
For a trained killer, you sure do fall for the same trick over and over.
Sparda sighs.
Yes, I suppose I do.
He turns around to face her and looks at the pistol.
Then again, you were almost expecting me, weren't you? That weapon isn't even loaded, nor do you have ammunition to load it with.
She lowers the gun.
I guess not.
Anna walks away from him a little and leans up against the tree. Looking at him, she asks,
What brings you back here? More slaughtering of my people?
No, even if that were the case, I fail to understand your pessimistic views on the subject.
How dare you say that?
Anna screamed in a hushed tone, trying to stay hidden from her comrades. She knew that no one else would understand if she was seen talking with a demon.
Even the evil that dwells in your soul has some compassion. What if a member of a party you go with is killed? Will you not take revenge for them?
Of course I will.
Sparda continued talking with Anna, not picking up on the tone the conversation was carrying. To him, there is no difference between talking about revenge and evil than there is talking about the weather.
How is that evil? To take revenge?
You don't get it, do you? What your comrades have done is evil! What you have done is evil!
How so? I followed orders, and my orders are to kill those who stand in my master's way.
Sparda sees that Anna is not pleased with his words, and the entire conversation was angering him. Frustrated, Sparda spoke again.
You know, I never wanted to come here in the first place.
Anna looks up from the ground and into Sparda's eyes.
If there was a way to make things the way they were before this, I would probably do it.
This was just the moment Anna had been waiting for.
Well...
She tries to swallow but cannot because her mouth was dry.
There may be one way.
Anna pulled out the brown book that she had been carrying since the day she met Abel. She held it close to her chest.
What do you mean?
Anna does not respond as she stood trembling and anxious, afraid to say what she had to for fear of the possible consequences.
Well, what did you mean by that?
Sparda retorted. She remained silent.
I don't have time for this.
Sparda prepared to go back to hell. Anna saw her only chance wavering and became defensive again.
It is not right to kill, to murder others for your own personal gain.
I beg your pardon. My personal gain.
Sparda's voice became a silent roar.
I do because it is my will to do so. I do what I want, regardless of what I am told. If it so happens that killing a few meaningless humans to ensure my survival, then that is what I will do.
That is just not... It is not right.
Anna is almost sickened by the words of this demon, this Sparda. Here she thought that this demon might be the counterbalance to her father. She looks at Sparda and is almost able to see into his soul, but it is consistently overwhelmed by his demonic presence.
I see good in you. You do not have to be evil. You have a choice.
Anna's words dig deep into Sparda's chest. Tears start to pour from her eyes.
You are doing it again.
Sparda points to Anna's face. She turns her head away from him.
Just go. Leave me alone.
He feels like he swallowed a rock, a rather large one at that. Sparda lowers his head and turns back to the Devil's Tower.
I'm sorry.
On his way flying back up the tower side, he remembers her words.
You have a choice!
The words echo in his mind. Suddenly the thought of Mundus pops into his mind. What Mundus would do to him if he ever finds out what he said. The same words Mundus told him long ago. But her words also echo in his mind, next to the thought of Mundus. Like two warriors, the feelings clash in his mind. Until, just before the gate, he says,
You're wrong, lady. I don't have a choice.
Chapter 9. Awake to Justice. Anna's words echoed in Sparda's head as he re-entered the gate to hell.
What your comrades have done is evil. What you have done is evil. It is not right to kill, to murder others for your own personal gain. This is not just... It is not right. I see good in you. You do not have to be evil. You have a choice.
Her words intrigued yet disgusted him. How could he, a demon, a devil elite, turn on his own kind? Where would his loyalty lie? His honor? As a demon, was it not in his blood to be evil? Did killing someone at the thought of it not come naturally to him? Didn't it make him feel good knowing that he stood above everyone else in skill and power? What was justice anyway? As Sparda burst through the gate, he came upon a gathering of sorts with Mundus at the head. A legion of demons, including Alastor, stood in a semicircle around one battered demon being held up by two abyss. Sparda fell into the crowd as Mundus spoke.
How dare you defy me? Do you not understand the consequences of such treason?
The hulking demon, radiating flames, looked up at the Emperor with disdain, but did not speak.
So Ifrit, I see you still choose to defy me.
Mundus continued.
Then there is only one option left. Your demise. Kill him now.
With that order, the Abyss pulled out their scythes and prepared to attack the beaten demon. However, he did not stand and accept his execution. With surprising agility, Ifrit leaped out of the way of the blades before they befell him. The two scythes converged on one another, deflecting the other away. The Abyss continued the attack, but Ifrit stood ready. As the first Abyss attempted a blow, Ifrit executed a flaming roundhouse kick, hard into his body, completely incinerating him. The next one was already in mid-air, ready to attack. But as he came down, he was caught with a monstrous flaming uppercut from Ifrit, which sent him flying away in flames. Suddenly, Ifrit was being attacked on all sides by Abyss, Frost, and Hells. He amazingly made quick work of them all, with a series of punches and kicks. Finishing the most powerful ones off with an incredible falling kick from above. As Ifrit stood, surrounded a pile of steaming carcasses of his comrades, he looked back up at the Dark King.
You cannot control me. I do as I please.
Ifrit roared in a deep baritone voice. The other demons remained silent as they waited for a rebuttal from Mundus. Sparda watched the scene intently.
I see. You believe you possess free will, but just as you stand before me now, you remain at my mercy, and it is my will that shall be done,
uttered Mundus. In a rage, Ifrit leapt into the air, preparing to attack the king himself. The air seemed to suddenly seep out of the hall at once as the surrounding demons gasped. Then, just as Ifrit was about to make his attack, a blinding white light poured from the statue, halting him in his tracks. Then suddenly, an intense beam of light shot at Ifrit right through his left shoulder, nearly taking his entire arm off. Ifrit was then hit with a barrage of beams throughout his entire body. As he fell limp to the ground, he amazingly was still breathing. Pleased that Ifrit was still alive, Mundus allowed him to wallow in his pain before making his fatal blow. Looking around at the other demons, he spoke.
If any of you choose to defy my will, this too shall be your fate.
And with those words, Mundus sent a web of red lightning through Ifrit's body. He shook and convulsed as his mangled body became more deformed with each blow. Sparda could not bear to look and turned away in revulsion. As Ifrit let out his last breath, Sparda looked at him, and a feeling of shame overwhelmed him. He then looked up at Mundus, and feelings of hate and anger arose within him. He could remember seeing Argisax treat his servants the same way, and it infuriated him.
What have I done? Did I help get rid of one tyrant to appoint a new one?
He could not stand the sight anymore, and belted away into the dark abyss of hell. Going into the farthest regions of the underworld, Sparda came upon one of the most bizarre places within the demon world. It was the recently created prison dubbed the Black Hole, which held the humans captured from the human realm. Not many humans remained in the multiple confines, as they were quickly executed or mutilated shortly after their arrival, and those who did remain prayed for death before the demons took them to their doom. As Sparda landed in the black hole, he noticed 3 humans, still alive, crying in their cell. As he approached the cell, he realized it was a man, a woman, and a little girl. On closer observation, he realized the child was the same little girl who he had encountered a few months ago in the human realm. She trembled in fear as he stood in front of the prison bars, constructed of fresh human bones and flesh. She held a red ball tightly against her chest as she shook.
"Get away from the bars, Marlene!"
screamed her mother. The father stood, ready to protect his family from this menacing demon. Noticing the fear in their faces, Sparda remembered his time spent in the human world and his conversations with Anna. He remembered his position as a demon and their position as humans, and he remembered how much it hurt Anna that his kind was murdering her people. Sparda was suddenly rushed with more feelings of shame, and for the first time, he was disgusted with himself. Then, in an act of unfathomable endearment, Sparda knelt down to one knee and held his clawed hand out through the bars. The little girl saw the gesture and realized that Sparda was the same demon she had seen before in the human realm, and was suddenly comforted. She began to approach Sparda, but her mother stopped her and pulled her back.
"Marlene, no! Stay away from him! You stay away from us!"
The father then stood in front of his family and picked up a large bone shard from the ground. Sparda knew what the man was doing, and knew why he was doing it. Only one solution ran across Sparda's mind. Talk to them.
"Do not fear me, child."
There were no undertones in Sparda's voice, only honesty and sincerity. The mother and father then appeared perplexed, confused as to how they could understand one of them. Still stunned, the little girl's parents stood there as Marlene approached Sparda. His clawed hand was still stretched out through the bars of the cell, and Marlene slowly placed her red ball in his palm.
"You can have it if you want."
Marlene clasped her hands behind her back and rocked back and forth on her tiptoes, giggling. Sparda gazed at the ball, and a slight grin ran across his face as he began to playfully toss the ball up and down from his palm into the air.
"What's your name?"
The girl asked.
Spar.
Sparda was suddenly cut off by the sound of a bell tolling and a loud screech. Three Hell Vanguards then began walking down the bloody pathway between the cells, towards Sparda. Marlene dashed back to her mother and father and wrapped her arms around their legs. As the Vanguards walked past Sparda, they glanced at him with heads bowed, showing respect for their general. Sparda stood with his head high as he concealed the ball behind his back. As the Vanguards passed, Sparda relaxed and turned back to Marlene and her family.
"Here, take this,"
Sparda said to Marlene, holding out the ball.
"No! I gave it to you. You keep it."
She responded with a smile.
"What am I supposed to do with it?"
Before she could respond, An outlandish sound belted from within the prison walls, like that of wind whirling in a cave. The family looked around in fear, and Marlene curled on the ground and began crying. Sparda looked around cautiously, because he knew what that sound foretold. Screams of humans could be heard within the neighboring cells, and as the demonic entity passed, they were all sucked back into the blackness of the wall, never to be seen again. Each successive cell yielded more terrible screams. Some cells, holding more than a handful of humans, were completely wiped out and shrouded in the darkness of the demonic entity. Some humans held onto the bars as tightly as their bodies would allow, trying to escape the demon, but were sucked backward, along with the bars. Over 20 cells were overcome before the screaming had stopped. Sparda knew what was going to happen next and looked back at the humans in the cell. It did not take long before the Reaper had slithered itself up the walls inside the prison, behind the family. Sparda stood frozen, knowing what was coming next, but he could not move. The Reaper was a very unique kind of demon. A cousin to the Hell clan, it appeared as a silhouette, as if a demon that was not there was casting a shadow. It could only manifest itself against solid objects, as it could not appear in an open space, but it could, however, snatch its victims from the material realm and bring them into their own darkness. This demon had also already wreaked its havoc upon the human world. After the opening of the portal, the Reaper, able to multiply itself countless times, would go to the human world and bring any remaining humans back to hell after a slaughter. Its manifestation flowed elegantly, appearing to be wearing a long robe, carrying its signature scythe. As of now, no means had been found as to how to kill the Reaper. Even the strongest of weapons did nothing against its shadowy body. It held a high rank, even among the deadly Hell vanguards. In mere seconds, the Reaper had planted its phantom blade into the spine of the father. Blood flowed from his chest as his wife and child screamed for him. He did not make a sound as he was pulled back into the wall, becoming a part of the very body of the Reaper. Inside the Reaper's body, the father was ripped of his flesh, and his soul was completely devoured, becoming another prisoner within the black abyss. Sparda knew that fate to be a very gruesome one, and cringed at the thought of it. Then suddenly it hit Sparda. As the cries of the mother and little girl faded out of his mind, he realized that the Reaper was not done yet. He had not come there for one soul, but for all of them. Sparda's glance quickly fell to the mother and girl huddled on the ground, shaking in fear. His glance then went back up to the Reaper, who had just finished digesting the father, and began creeping its way back down to the remaining family. Sparda suddenly began to breathe very deeply, and for the first time in his life, he dreaded the fate of a soul other than his. He actually cared. He cared about what was going to happen to the little girl and her mother. He cared about if they were hurt or not. The feelings rushing through Sparda's body were almost unbearable as they all hit him at once. He continued to breathe deeper and deeper with each breath as the Reaper drew closer and closer to the family. He looked into the eyes of the little girl and saw fear. A fear he had never seen before. A fear from an innocent being. He felt an urgent need to defend her, to protect her from imminent danger, and at the same time, pitied her for not being strong enough to defend herself, her body not strong enough to endure the pain. The entire scenario unfolding repulsed Sparda beyond comprehension. He was suddenly disgusted with an act that one of his own kind was going to commit against a human. Thoughts of Mundus's rule and his subservience to him also ran through his mind.
All of this is because of him, and I allowed it.
It drove him so crazy he could not see straight. Time stood still as his emotions rose. It did not take long for all of these emotions to come to a head. The Reaper drew dangerously close to the mother and the girl, and Sparda suddenly felt a sharp thud in his chest, beating over and over. He placed his hand to his chest to control the throbbing, but it only grew stronger with each moment. He looked back into the faces of the mother and the daughter and saw the face of Anna. Her words then entered his mind once more.
You have a choice!
Then suddenly something happened. In an instant, the anxious wind rushing through and around Sparda stopped, and he stood calm and focused. The Reaper was about to make his final attack, but was halted by Sparda's words.
No, no more!
Before the Reaper could even cast his blank stare at Sparda, he was pierced through his gloomy body by his sword. The cell bars lay completely shattered, and Sparda held his sword steady in the body of the Reaper. However, as all knew in hell, no weapon could kill the Reaper, so it stared down at Sparda as if he had made a horrible mistake. But something was different now. Sparda had done something to the Reaper that could not be explained. As Sparda looked up into the Reaper's deep blackness, blinding light began to shoot out of its body. As it shook and seized against the wall, it wondered how Sparda was hurting him, killing him. Then it looked down and realized that there was now something different about Sparda. Something different in his eyes. With other demons, he could always see the darkness in their souls, but as he looked into Sparda's eyes, he was painfully blinded by light. Within seconds, the Reaper's body was split in two, white light seeping from its two-dimensional exterior. It suddenly burst into the material realm and became solid black matter that sizzled in pain as the souls contained within its body shot out in every direction. It finally let out one scream of pain before it completely disintegrated and merged with the ground. The entire scene was beyond unheard of. Sparda, a demon, had just slain another demon to protect two humans. He stood in silence, breathing deeply as he looked at the sizzling rocks from the Reaper. He did not know exactly what he had just done, but he knew an overwhelming feeling of righteousness overcame him. The kill was not a kill made for his own pleasure or to show his strength. It was not because he was obeying orders or giving them. For the first time, he killed because it was right. Sparda's mind raced as he tried to figure out his next move. His adrenaline was high and his blood pumped with excitement and rage. He looked over at the girl and mother who looked back at him in shock and fear. He did not think. He just spoke.
You have to get out of here. Now.
Before either of them could think about it, the mother picked up her daughter and began running out of the cell. However, they did not make it far before they were confronted by 3 Hell Vanguards, salivating at the chance to kill them. Sparda knew what he had to do. The Vanguards held out their hands, preparing to conduct their most devastating teleport attack, and as the bells rang, they vanished. The ground beneath the mother and daughter began to ripple like water, and as the Vanguards plowed their way upwards, their screams could be heard. However, when the dust settled, Marlene and her mother were no longer where they had been standing. With superhuman speed, Sparda had teleported and snatched them out of harm's way. As he placed them on solid ground, the Vanguards looked at him confused and suddenly realized what he had just done. They knew that Sparda was now an enemy. The 3 Vanguards suddenly became 10 as more joined them. They all held out their bony arms, preparing to rush at Sparda and the 2 humans at once. But as the bell tolled and the Vanguards disappeared, so did Sparda. Loud cracks and bangs could be heard in the sky and on the ground as Marlene's mother held her close. Only small glimpses of what was happening could be seen because Sparda's movement was so fast. After a few seconds, the screaming subsided. Then shards of bone and tattered black cloths fell from the sky, and Sparda reappeared in the midst of it all. Not one of the 10 Hell Vanguards remained. Sparda looked back at Marlene and her mother. He knew that he could not tell them to just leave. He knew he had to escort them out of Hell himself. And he knew that it would not be an easy task. There was a lot of bloodshed to be spilled, and at that point, Sparda had no problem spilling it. Something had happened within Sparda that changed him. The feelings had always been there, but they were never recognized in full until now. He now had an unspoken mission, a mission that filled him with a clarity he had never experienced. He would betray his own kind on behalf of not only these 2 humans, but for all humans throughout the world. The thought of it drew an odd smile across his face. Sparda's rebellion had begun,